Hi, welcome to the Best Ever You show. I'm Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, and with me today is the wonderful Deb Landry. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. How are you?
Fine, thank you for asking. How about you? You all good?
So glad that it's 2021.
Yeah, I think we all are hoping for a much better direction for the
I
year.
set all the calendars down in my house on just before Christmas. I figured I had enough of this year, and I put my January ones up. So
Well, you still accomplished something pretty amazing. Despite 2020 being what it is, you released let's hold this up. Deb
okay.
released a book called Independence,
Yes.
and I think for those of us that had books being released, it wasn't we weren't planning a pandemic around the release of our book, so a lot of us kept the release date of the book and hoped it would give people either joy or something to read or something to do. And I think the book industry, I think people really appreciated the book industry, I think is my point.
I did.
Last year.
I have read so many books this year.
Yeah.
And I'm more of I'm a writer, but I love to listen to books. I love audio. Audio is how I learn. And so what I did was I think I listened to a book a week. No matter what I was doing, I'd be cleaning the house and listening to a book, driving in the car and listening to a book. But this is the top year. Even when I was in school, this was the top year of actually reading books.
Well, your books. Well, I know when I first moved to Maine, you were one of the people that I very first met, and I just completely admired you and wanted to work with you and collaborate with you because you definitely know books. You know how to publish them, write them, everything. You're a really cool resource for all things books. So I really appreciate that. And I've always appreciated that. You helped me publish my very first book. And so, yeah, Blueberry. And it just matters to me so much because that was such a goal of mine. And you were there every step of the way. So Bryson Taylor Publishing is the name of your publishing company. I think I got that right. Yep.
Yes.
And let's talk about independence for a minute, because what is it? I know the answer to this, but let's tell our audience the answer to this. What is it that sparked the creation of this book?
Well, I never thought of writing a memoir about my upbringing. I mean, I've written several children's books, I've written several things, but I never really thought about doing one about my life until when I was 60, I found out that my biological father was not the man that raised me. And I found that out by doing a fun DNA test with my kids.
Fun, huh?
It was supposed to be a fun thing.
Yeah.
We were actually, because I have one adopted child and I also have his wife now her family is from the same region as my family in Canada. So we thought, and the same last name. So we said, oh, we've got to be related. We may be 10th cousins, but let's check it out and see if we're related. And of course we weren't, because I came back as being, I'm 48% Italian, and my family is all French Canadian. So that's what kind of started it. And it started me on a search to find out who the daddy was, if he was still alive, if I had any family, why it happened, well, I know how it happened, but it's like, what was the circumstances around everything? And of course, at my age, most of the people are deceased.
Right.
So it was interesting. And I found a sister.
Wow.
Which I love dearly. And, we've, over the last 2 years, we've built quite a relationship. It's been really tough this year with COVID. Not being, we just meet each other and we start seeing each other and building this relationship. And now, we can't see each other, but in person. But, I found out a lot. And so I felt like my story needed to be told, because what I thought was a normal childhood and a normal life and everything, it wasn't. And I found that I could help other people by telling them my story. So I did, and great response. The book reached #2 on several genres on Amazon. It just came out in my favorite, of course, Audible,
Uh,
and I just, I love it. The narrator is amazing, and so now, we're going again with the Audible thing, and but we've done a few campaigns, and it's done very well. So even though I can't get out, just got to find another way of doing things, which I started a Facebook page of women that have gone through some of the same things that I've gone through. And it's just it's called Empowering Independence on Facebook. And, it's just people that just, have they're like-minded people.
yeah, Facebook is really, really neat for that. You can meet some people that it's just a great place to chat with people and talk to them about their lives, or they chime in about yours, or see things in a different way. I find it really interesting. And I was really grateful to you the other day when you gave our journal a plug. I was like, thank you for that.
Well, a few professionals on there to help out. So that's great. We're doing a 30-day challenge where it's not really a challenge. It's just make you feel good. Just you think of a word and you put the word up there, say something about it, like, joy or gratitude or whatever, and what that means to you. One thing I noticed that one lady put up the other day is how she saw herself. And we don't always see ourselves like others see us. We're our biggest critics.
Yeah.
And, so.
Yeah, I get we talk a lot about that on Best Ever You, with the self-confidence and the self-critique, the kindness to ourselves and so forth. And we were talking about that yesterday, as a matter of fact, and how you would talk to your best friend is sometimes entirely different than the way you talk to yourself in the mirror. Exactly. And I mean, if you talk to your best friend like that, they'd have quite a chance.
It wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be a good friend. So it's interesting to treat yourself with TLC and surround yourself with love. And let's talk about that moment for a minute when you found that out, that your dad wasn't, the dad you had known wasn't really your dad, and all that. Describe that moment. Is that a moment where your stomach comes up, through your throat, and you're like, oh my gosh, are you?
It's just such a surreal feeling and shock because, you don't want to believe it. I think I stretched it out over a period of time. First of all, the first thing I thought was, oh, gee, maybe my dad's family, which was from France, moved in from Italy. They were really Italian, and they lived in France, and then they, came over to Canada, and that didn't really make any sense when you consider, one man, one woman. Both those families weren't Italian, and but I had hope.
Did you try everything possible to make it not real?
I mean, I was a daddy's girl. I love both of my parents are deceased. And, I just could not imagine that man not being my biological father. I'm going to tell you, the one thing that saved me from that was being an adoptive parent, because I don't look at my adoptive child any different than I look at my other children. You don't see that. People, some said, when my children were little, they'd say, oh, which one is yours? And I'd say, they're both mine. Yeah, but which one is yours? And I'd make them think it through. I wouldn't be that easy on them. And then finally they'd say, which one did you give birth to and which one did you adopt? And then I'd answer the question. But to me, there was, there's no different when you do that. There's, the child is your child. And so I went through all those things. My mother had told me for years that my father's biological father was not the man that brought him up. So then I got thinking, oh, maybe my father's father is Italian. And I went through every scenario. Yes. I ended up having to get another relative on my father's side to do a DNA test to see if she and I were related in any way. And that was the day I had to finally say, yes, he's not my biological father. And that was a devastating day. Interestingly enough, I got a notice that day from Ancestry. It said, you have a match. And I said, oh, well, my cousin's stuff is in, and I've been worrying for nothing. And it wasn't. It was a match for my son. That is why I got the email. And then I opened it up, and hers had been in for a couple of weeks. But the reason I didn't get notified is that she and I did not match. And, so that was the devastating day. And it was the same. Honestly, it was the anniversary of my father's death. 27 years, I believe he had been gone. And on that particular day, it was 2 days after Thanksgiving that he passed away. At a very young age, he was 53. Right. And so, we've always, my brother and I have always been, going to the doctors and making sure we don't have the heart disease that he had and all that. And ended up,
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, but it was devastating. It was just like I was watching a movie on TV. I don't think you could have written it any better. I called my only living, my aunt that I was close to. She had 2 sisters still alive, and I asked her if she could call her sister, because her sister always said that my father wasn't my father, and she said, "Oh, I would, but she died 2 days ago." And it's like, really? Am I watching a Lifetime movie here?
Well,
And
you are at some point, right?
yeah, so it was a lot. And all I can say it's a lot, and you just have to work through it. That's what I did. It was very therapeutic to write the book.
Did that heal?
Yes.
Help heal?
It helped heal. It's like anything, you never forget. But it taught me one thing. It taught me about, people always said to me, "Oh, well, you need to forgive people to move on." What does that mean to me, to forgive somebody? I don't want to forgive somebody that didn't ask for it and that I'm still upset about. But I really learned the true meaning of forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean that you have to forget. And you just, you forgive because that heals you. That doesn't heal anybody else. It allows you to move on and to just know that you can't change the past. You can only, deal with what you have to deal with. And that's what happened. I didn't write the book to, put anybody in my family down. And it's not about that. It's just about the facts of going through my life as somebody born in 1950s and up through, and how, it's that butterfly effect. One little thing changes and the whole world changes. And that's kind of what happened with my life. So this is what you get dealt.
Yeah.
And,
well, I'm grateful to have you on the website, besteveryou.com, as a thought leader, and an advisory council. We'll do, we're going to just keep doing things, and it's wonderful to always be in your company and presence. And
here.
Yeah, you keep an eagle eye on us, so I love that. I want to go back from my thank you. I want to go back to your podcast, or go over to your podcast, because one of the ways we had a lot of fun. I don't even know how many years ago it was now, but we would write for the Portland Press Herald, the newspaper here. We had a mom.
I just found our first magazine. We were cleaning out our bookcase, and I found our first magazine. I think it was 2006.
Yeah, I mean, quite a while ago. And you, one of the things I loved about that is you wrote about, it was called Raising Cain, and it's now Raising Cain podcast and everything. Do you want to just kind of just bring us up to speed on what's going on with that? Because it's been there, but you're kind of brewing it back up again.
Yes, we actually have an episode coming up where we're going to be just revisiting everybody we interviewed this year. Yeah. Not re-interviewing them, but we sent out an email to see what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of an update. But everything in Raising Cain is exactly what I was doing when I write my blogs or books or stories or children's books, whatever. It's all the same thing. It's all based on social awareness issues. And so we might take a subject and talk about it. So Raising Cain is actually about, it's part of my nonprofit, and it talks about different things. We get people on there talking about any life-changing problems they may have had. It can be just about anything, but it's mainly about social awareness. So, for instance, when we talk to you, we talk about, how people can be the best that they can be, or, we talk to a lot of people that write books, memoirs, things like that. We got a great one on there about a gentleman that came over from Africa and how he has, survived and written a book, and, same sort of the same thing as me, different subject, but learning through growth, self-growth. And, you never end up learning that, the day that you stop learning is the day you die.
Yeah.
And so all kinds of good things. It's a nonprofit podcast, goes along with my nonprofit Crossroads, which we've had.
That too.
Yes, actually yesterday, well, today's the 4th, January 1st or December 31st, it is our 22nd year anniversary.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, so we have been doing that for a long time. So I'm very pleased that the organization has grown into, being, I don't know, just a resource for everybody. That's all that Raising Cain is a resource. And we talk about what anybody asks us to talk about.
Yeah. If you know Deb Landry here in Maine, she's a philanthropist, a humanitarian, just a beautiful resource for so many, especially in, just want to say, like the parenting, child development areas and arenas. You really help a lot of families.
Well, yes, and I do a lot of pro bono work, or part of being our nonprofit or whatever, working with, I'm on the governor's task force for bullying prevention in school. Or it's kind of, bullying prevention is kind of like a symptom. And, it's really teaching people character education, positive character or social skills. And if you have positive social skills and you don't have bullying, you don't have all these other things that go along with it. So yes, I'm still on that committee. I've been on that. I'm the oldest committee member. I've been on it since it opened up. I'm the only one left of the original group. But yes, we do a lot of work.
We're so young though. So
I'm so young.
We're so young. Yeah, no, I want to talk about that too, because we can do anything at any age. Do you want to talk inspirationally for us about that? Because I think more people are doing more older. I used to panic about turning 40. I really did. I'm 51 now. And I think I was raised thinking, okay, at 40, I don't know what it was back then, but it was almost like you I don't know, you couldn't do anything past 40 or something. I don't know what that was, but it doesn't feel that way anymore.
It's like now, I'm not my grandmother's 60. I'm 66, but I'm not my grandmother's 66. My grandmother at my age, had the short gray hair and but first of all, we have all the physical stuff. We have the clothes, we have the face cream, we have the hair dye, we have the makeup. So physically you can look younger. And also I just, people are living longer now. There's all kind, there's medical things. People are exercising, eating right. There's so many different things, but you're as young as you feel. I don't feel any different than I did in my 30s, but I just learned a big lesson recently that I can't do what I used to do in my 30s. I have, and my doctor told me, just because you can doesn't mean you have to do it.
Yeah, that's a character lesson too.
Yeah. And doing the best that you can do. You don't have to do it. It's quality, not quantity. And there's so many life lessons to learn as you grow older. And that's the great thing. So, I'm slapping my wrist saying, don't do this, don't do that. And then I find myself getting all involved and all excited about a project, and then say, well, and then before you know it, you're so far into it, you don't know how you got that far into it. So balance is important. Yeah. Taking care of yourself, something women do not do.
No, and I think it's really important, your yeses and nos, so that they're distributed in a balanced sort of mode. There are times when you need to say no. There are incredible yes moments, but more and more, I believe so heavily in the power of collaboration. I think we all need each other so much,
right?
Especially during these moments, for sure. So, where would you like to send people to purchase this? Should we do you have
Oh,
a,
they can go right to Amazon.
okay.
It's real easy to go to Amazon and put in Independence Deb Landry, or you can go to my website, which is brysontaylor.com. Or if you want it in Audible, it is just at audible.com. And I always recommend that people do the Audible thing. I
You love Audible.
I love Audible. I love I have other companies that I use as well, but I'm a big fan.
All right. So before we go,
Okay.
let's talk publishing. So one more question, and
Okay,
it's a doozy. So here comes opening the can of worms.
Okay.
So many people, once you write a book, people will say, how did you do that? How do I become traditionally published? How did you publish that? And so forth. Let's have a chat back and forth about publishing. You start.
Okay. So I didn't know much about publishing until about 15 years ago. And then I learned a lot very quickly. I wanted to publish a book, and I thought I could just go out there and get it published. And it's a children's book on bullying prevention. And what I found as I was doing that is that it's not so easy. But I also found out, man, I really like publishing books better than I like writing them. So I decided to do all the homework, and it's sort of a subsidiary, well, it is a subsidiary of our Bryson Taylor Publishing. And I've taught a lot of classes on it at the adult ed level. And of course, I get a lot of people that will send me books or send me requests and things like that. The publishing industry has changed tremendously over the years. People do not need to have a traditional publisher anymore, but it's nice to have. However, anybody can publish, but just because you got a story doesn't mean that that people are going to buy it. So you have to really think to yourself, what do I want to do with this book? Do I want to publish this book because I want my grandchildren to read my story? Do I want to just publish a book to say I did it? Or do I have a good story that I know that it's going to be the best, story out there, and they're going to make movies of it, and I want to be famous and rich? You got to decide where you want to go with that. Do you want to write for a living? I'll tell you, the most important person to me when I write is my editor or editors.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah. And I've had people that come to me and say, no, I don't want an editor because they're going to change my words. They're not going to change your story. No. They might change your words. I mean, your words, you're getting technical when, you say that.
Shorten you up a little bit. They just,
or make it sound better.
Yeah.
I mean, I had 3 editors on my book. And sometimes they'd say, wait, when you're thinking about something, the whole story's there. And then I put it down and it comes out in one sentence. They said, well, how did you feel about that? Or what did it look like? What was that room? Describe that room to me so that the reader can get an idea of where you're standing and what you're doing. So that's the most important person. However, if you just want to see your writing in print and you don't care if you sell the book, just go to Amazon and publish your own book. It doesn't cost anything. They give you an ISBN number, you put your book out, they give you templates, you put it all in and you've got one. But whoever the authors, if they want to sell their book, you can be with anybody in the world, but that book is not going to sell unless you get out there and you sell it yourself.
Yeah. Traditional publishing included. Yeah.
Most definitely. I mean, if you're Stephen King or J.K. Rowling and the book's coming out, people are going to buy it. Yeah. But take away that 1% at the top and look at every other author. Stand in the Library of Congress or bookstore or your library and see how many authors there are. You've got to be the one that gets out there and does that and sells it. And this year we've had a difficult time with COVID and getting our books sold, and we've had to do everything online. I'm not making appearances talking about my book. You're not making appearances, and everything's online. So it's word of mouth, but you got to decide what you want to do. Once you decide what you want to do and you know what you want to do, then you can move forward. But I've had many authors that think, okay, I'm going to write a book and you're going to make me famous. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah.
and you don't write a book in a month. There's no way you can write. You're somebody special if you can write a book in a month. It takes a while. It takes research. It
I
took
think
me.
I think of Percolate, and that
Oh,
moment
yeah.
of yes from Hay House, yes, we're going to publish your book, and the yes comes with a, well, what's your marketing plan, by the way? That needs to be submitted. What are you going to do to help this
Book
sell?
it. Right. And
Yeah.
I don't publish anybody. I don't publish children's books unless they come from an actual illustrator because, I think they're too expensive and, the ends doesn't weigh with the means. But I also do not just, publish anybody. There's a contract and you need to tell me what your marketing plan is.
Yeah, platform. That's the number one thing I'd recommend to authors who want to actually sell their book, because you could use it as a calling card, or like a freebie, like here's my book, thanks, kind of thing. But if you actually want to sell your book, and whether it's self-published, traditionally published, hybrid, or whatever, you need that platform with which people will buy, and friends like Deb Landry. Hey Deb, can you go buy my book and write a review? The reviews on Amazon and so forth. So there's that close-knit group of people that surround you who sort of kick off the project, and you rely on them.
Know your people, just like I said with the editor. Your publisher is not your marketing department.
No.
They're the people that are going to hold a contract and get your book in print. They're not the people that are going to market you. You have to hire people.
Yeah.
You don't go to your dentist to have your annual exam, but they're both health related. So you have to know what you're doing to be successful.
It's tricky. And then, I do think there's something for typos. If you've got a book out there and you're trying to sell it and it hasn't been edited, or the cover, like your cover looks super professional, the spine, the back. I think it's always nice to pick up someone's book when it's in real nice shape. If you need an example, here's a really good example of a wonderful book. So
and writing all your words through a spell check is really easy to do.
Yeah. You might not, sometimes I spell things intentionally wrong, just being the queen of typo land, but I'll put a thing there, like this is spelled wrong on purpose, or whatever, just to illustrate the point that, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think sometimes people get, stop.
Words.
That's another thing that people do. They're like, well, I want to write a book, but it has to come out edited or I'm not going to write it, kind of thing. And they stop because they're editing as they write. And I think that's a really interesting writing process. That is not at all the way I write.
No.
I just write conversationally with no punctuation even. It's terrible.
If you ask me to write a blog on, honesty, I'll just sit down and write this blog. But when I sat down to write about my life, it was difficult. It was very difficult. I finally ended up just like writing everything that happened and just went on and on and on. And then I had to go back. I think totally I had 12 edits, full book edits between 3 or 4 people reading it. It's a bit 4 counting me, and going over and over it, because you can't write something that you experienced in little sentences like you would a blog. You just have to just get it out there and then go back.
Yeah, and another thing I hear with people, and we'll end here pretty soon, but another really great idea that I've heard recently is to start a blog. And so if you have an idea to write a book, maybe start blogging, and maybe then print off all your blogs and sort of string them together and connect them into chapters or segue into other chapters and so forth. And I did that a little bit with Percolate. When I had thoughts, I wanted to see if they resonated with the audience and so forth. I'd blog a little bit on the topic and see if it was something that was making sense.
People that are interested in that subject. The whole publishing and writing and blogging world has changed tremendously with the internet.
Yeah. So one more question. I lied. I have one more for you, actually. Sorry. It's a good thing to lie about, right? One more question. What else is coming up for you? What have you got planned? Because I saw the Daffodil. I know you've got children's books that you're working on.
I am
All
working
sorts
on
of cool
a children's book. So this month I'm continuing, because I didn't do much in December. I'm working on my children's book called Summer's Shadow, and it's about a girl being intimidated and bullied and things like that. So that's the first thing. I'm working with one of my children. It's going to be the illustrator, and then we're going to work on that through this month, getting all the illustrations done.
Beautiful.
And so that's the first thing, and still working on, you know, many different things. The Daffodil Effect is a program in my nonprofit where we're just bringing women together and showing them where they can get resources that they need. We're collaborating with another, I think it's called it's called Safeway, I believe. It's a Safe House. I'm sorry, it's called Safe House. It's an app for women, so they can, and men, anybody, that they can find help whenever they need it about domestic violence. My good friend and partner, she and I are working on a book, which is my business co-writer. Why don't you call somebody you co-write with? Your co-writer.
Yeah, I call co-author or business partner. Yeah, like Chris Fuller and I are co-authors and co-all things, everything.
Yeah, Jenny Muscatel, she's a
left hand or right hand. I don't know which one.
Right. So Jenny and I are working on a book about 8 stories of women who had some domestic violence. And when I say domestic violence, it's not necessarily man to woman. It could be woman to man, could be parent to child, could be older child to senior, whatever. But we're taking 8 scenarios and putting together in a book. So that book will be coming out probably by the end of the year. So those are my book projects, and just continuing everything else, and
okay, well,
you know, whatever comes up. You and I have a few projects coming up.
I know we got a lot of stuff on the docket. So,
Yeah.
all right, cool. So thank you for being here on the Best Ever You show, YouTube edition, or whatever this is called, like TV.
We're on TV. I'm on TV.
We're on TV. You're on TV. YouTube TV. You can actually, the kid, I thought this was so cool, and you know, this is gonna, you know, date me a little bit, but about a year ago, one of them's like, you know, you can take YouTube and stream it onto the TV. I'm like, you're kidding me. And they're just taking their phone. I'm like, give me your phone and let me see what you did. And you know, they trained us on all things. Yeah, it's
YouTube is TV now. It might have not been when it first started, but it is TV now.
So we're technically
a streaming device.
Anyway, all right. Thanks for the laughs and leadership and lessons and purpose that you put into the universe. So we really all appreciate you, and we're grateful for all that you do. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Have a wonderful week.
You too.